Hello, this video is just to get you started into your summative task, and to do that we're going to start by going back to earlier this year and take a look at exercise 3. So exercise 3 can be found in your OneNote, and it's still there. You just have to go into the assignment course assignments and exercises section. At the very top you can open up this Word version of it. Look at this, and if you scroll down you might recall it's a number of small little activities where we're creating what's called a tools class. And the reason why we had this exercise a lot earlier in the year was to get you guys to start thinking about how to create some code that's reusable. And so what some of you have started to do is to create what's called a tools class. And a tools class is a collection of methods that are stored in some common place that you can use regularly in your programming. And this is actually a really good thing to do in any language that you're learning. Is when you want to make some little method, just do it in a common place, and you can keep all of those together, and then you can use them in a variety of your programs. So in your OneNote, if we jump into your section for your summative, which is right there, this is our summative task. And essentially what I'm asking you to do is to take your tools class that you've already developed, or that you will now start putting some real focus into developing, and you're going to make a video of explaining to me, the various tools that you used, why you included them, what they do. And in doing this, you're going to demonstrate your understanding of what we've learned this year. This is really open-ended. The tools that you create are specific to what you need. You might create a couple tools in particular just to demonstrate an idea. The key thing here is you want to make methods that can be reused in any program. So in this video, what I'm going to do in the remaining section is actually get set up with my tools class. So I have a project here, which I've called Summative, and inside there currently I have one class called Tool Tester, and inside that class I have a main method. So if I run this, it says this is a line printed out. So what everyone would have done earlier this year is to create a special class, and I asked everyone to create it by using a $ and then your first and last initial. So I'm going to create a class called $PM. And so what I have now is a new class, and this is my tools class. And what I'm going to do is write a variety of methods in here that I can use in other programs. And let's start by writing the specific method that some of you have already made. So an observation that students made was that I'm really tired of writing out system.out.println every time. What I'd really like to do is just write out something like print. So what some students have already done is they've gone in here and they've made a method called print. So currently all our methods start with public static, and then we have our return type. So what does this method return? Well, in this case, if we want to print something to the screen, it's not actually returning anything. It's simply doing something. So if it doesn't return anything to the user, we write the word void. And I'm going to call this print, and I'm going to take as a parameter a string. So in our exercise, we talked about how do we read a method header, and we talked about the idea that this represents our return type, this is the name of the method, and this is the parameters, or what it takes. So what happens now is that inside this class there is a special method called print that I can use. So if I come to my tool tester, what I could do, instead of writing this line as printed out, I could put something like print. This is a line printed out. And I have a couple problems here. The first thing you'll notice right away is that I get an error. The reason why I've gotten an error is because what's happening is if I try and invoke this method called print, it only looks within the class that the main method is in. So the main method is contained within the tool tester class, so it looks around and says there's no method called print. So just like math methods, what I need to do is I need to actually indicate where this method exists. And it exists in my tool class. So I go $PM dot, this is a line printed out. And I run this, and notice I get it once. I only get the printed out line once. So let's take a look at why that is. what we see here is that there's no code in my method right now. So let me put a little line here, and I'm going to say print method running. So now if I save all of them, and I come back to my tool tester, and I run this, I get print method running, and then this line is printed out. So what's happening is when this line of code is encountered, it says, oh, you want me to look in the $PM class, which is my tools class, and you want me to find the method called print, and you want me to pass this information into here. So what it does is it jumps into here, it finds the method print, and this string becomes whatever I passed in there. For those of you that have learned about functions in mathematics, it works like a function. If I have some function called f at x, I could say f at 3, it means evaluate f, where x is 3. I want you to run the print method, or sometimes called the print function, where the string in this case is this line is printed out. So I'm going to come in here, and instead of saying print method running, I'm just going to do s. So now if I come back to my tool tester, and I run this, I get this line is printed out, this line is printed out. So now what I have is a shortened version, a tool that I've created that generates a printed line of text to the screen. So anytime I want to print something out, I can say $PM.print hello. And there we go. So now let's take a look at what another type of tool I can make. Maybe I want one that's a print versus a print line. So notice here it says this is a print line, meaning it prints a new line after the text. I'm going to call this method print line. I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to make the same method, but instead of print line, what I'm going to call it is print. So now I have two tools in my tool class. I have a method called printLine, which essentially takes a string and prints it to the screen, and then puts a new line at the end. And I have a method called print, which takes a string, prints it to the screen, and doesn't put a new line at the end. Now what's really important with this is that when you make these methods, include comments. If you put a /** and hit enter, it'll actually set up your parameters for you. So it takes one parameter, which is s, and here I put a description. This method takes a string parameter and prints it to the console using print line. Now I can come down to this method, this method takes a string parameter and prints it to the console using print. And so this is the idea of what we want to do for our summative, is we want to continually build our tools class. Some of you have already been doing this. And a little later, in the near future, we're going to take some time to make a video where you'll talk about that tools class and the various tools we've included. Now I'm going to make one more video, and we're going to add a couple more tools to our tools class that do a couple other things. I hope this video helped.